Hey friends, Greg here at the Pennywise guys. I want to show you how to replace a compressor pump on a mini split air conditioning system. The brand I have here is a Senville unit. They do cover the parts but not the labor. The labor is not that difficult. I'll show you how to do that. I want to let you know that you might want to go ahead and bring in some help if you don't know how to solder copper tubing. Especially with the high pressures, it's very critical. I have a good friend that does a lot of this stuff and he helped me solder it up. Everything else I did myself. Let me show you how it's done. Let's get started.
Hey, we're going to get started on this project. First thing to do is to take all the sheet metal parts off, get them out of the way. Very simple to do. Just take an impact or a screwdriver. Just go ahead and take out the screws. We'll start with the top first. 2 screws on that side and 2 screws on the other side. Okay, the top comes off, no problem there. Set that aside carefully. And then we go ahead and start taking off the front panels here. And most of the screws are down low. So you got one down here. Just gonna buy a bunch of sheet metal screws. Okay, work across the bottom here. All the screws out. Just lay them in place here. We'll move them out of the way in a minute. Okay. There. Over here. Okay. Let's get these 2 across here. Okay. And the screws are all the same style, same size, so you don't have to worry about it getting mixed in. Let's see. Let's make sure we got all the screws here. Give it a little bit of a tug there. Up. All the screws are out. Sometimes they get a little stuck. There we go. There it is. Okay. Just a little light tug there. Set that aside. Now we got a few more screws here for this front panel. Okay, that panel should, let's see, they're all off there. Here we go. Comes right out. Okay. Next thing to do would be to remove the fan. Okay, and there are 2 screws down below here for that, and the cord is right here, so it'll unplug. That's not unplugged there. Here it is. There it is. There. So it'll unplug the cord. Will unplug right there. Okay. So let's see. Alrighty. Let's unplug it first. Okay. So that's out of the way, and it loops on the top. Okay. Just 2 screws. And let's leave it all intact. So get that bottom screw here. And that one there. Just simply lift out of the way. So far, really easy. Let's go ahead and set that aside here carefully. Okay, start picking up some screws, so we don't end up losing them. Okay, I'm going to put them over here out of the way so they're in good shape. These 2 screws here, I'll stick with the fan. Actually, good idea maybe just to put them back into place. A lot of times if you put them back in the hole after you remove the item, then you don't lose the screws and they're there and you have them there. It's not going to be in the way. Okay, we're going to be taking, this is the compressor here, so we got to remove all this stuff out of the way and wires out of the way, so it's just a process of doing that. So I'll show you how that's done. We've got a heating element for the defrost. Okay, so that can be, that may or may not need to be moved out of the way. For right now, it won't take it out. We'll start the process of taking this all apart. We may or may not take that out. This is the motherboard. We don't have to take it out. Hopefully just leave it in place with the framework. Just get this framework moved out of the way and hopefully make room to be able to access taking this, exchanging the compressor. At this point, what I'm going to do is stop because I have to go ahead and have it evacuated. And I have a friend coming over to do that. We'll evacuate it, and then I can go ahead and get this all moved out of the way for him to be able to solder in the new compressor.
Before we go any further, I'd like to give you a tip to take photos of things that you might have a hard time remembering how they went together. So that way you don't have to have any fear about this rat nest of wires and all the things that you might forget how to put it back together. So just take photos, and that way when you go to reassemble, you'll remember how things went. So let's continue. I want to show you a trick to get this one screw out. This screw right here. You pull the motherboard cover off, and that gives you a little bit more room. And what I do is just take either vice grips or locking pliers here and just turn it from the back of the screw to either loosen or tighten it. There's no way to get a Phillips head screwdriver on there without removing the motherboard, and you don't want to have to remove the motherboard. Trust me, I've done it. It's not fun. The other one down there, it's way in the back. It's way back there. And what I use is my Makita drill. I'll get it, show it to you here. Makita drill with a long extension, with a Phillips long extension, and that reaches back in there, and you can get that screw in and out. That's the only two screws that are difficult on this thing. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to button this thing up and then take all the screws out. After I got the framework moved out of the way, cleared everything out of the way, there was a thermal blanket cover, one on the top there. This one here, it went on the top. I just pulled that out of the way. A cap that was over the wiring connections there to protect that, so just pulled that little nut, pulled that off. And then there was a thermal wrap around the compressor itself, and it's Velcro. So just undo the Velcro, slip that cover off, so that's all out of the way. So when he torches that, those fittings, nothing's gonna melt. And then take a picture of the connections before you pull these wires. You got red, blue, and black wire, but I always like to take a picture to make sure that I get them put back in the right place. So the last thing I'll do is I'll take my picture, pull those, get those out of the way, and then this connection here and the one in the back there that I'm pointing to can be soldered. He's going to heat it up, pop the copper off, clean everything up, and then I've got the new pump compressor here, right here, that's going to go in, the replacement. Well, I had to do a little bit more in disassembly here. There just wasn't enough room to do that soldering on that joint and that one, so I cut loose the straps, the zip ties off all the wires, and they're long enough, and you unbolt this whole sheet metal thing here, leave the motherboard attached to it, and just swing it out of the way. So that's what we did, and now we've got plenty of room to remove the old pump and install the new one. We can actually get around and solder that joint there and the other one there. Also, I removed the heating element for the defroster, and that goes across the bottom here. So remove that. There's just one screw and a second screw over there with these clamps, and that just comes right off and it swings out of the way along with it. That orange strap goes around the bottom of the compressor after you remove the heat shield or the heat blanket or the insulating blanket, and just remove that that orange strap, move that out of the way. All these wires, you don't have to disconnect them. Actually, there was one right there that we had to disconnect, but it was a little bit too tight. But all the other wires, just cut the zip ties and everything just kind of moves out of the way. And so everything is clear now for the removal installation of the new pump. And we'll solder that in later today, and then we'll reverse the process and put this all back together and get it charged, and we'll get it running. Well, we got the new compressor soldered in. This is the new compressor. My friend that came over and did this, he's got a lot of experience doing it, and he did a wonderful job. And we loosened up the screws down there at the bottom of that back accumulator. Those two screws that kind of gave the tubing some play. And then we removed those bolts on the down here to give some play. And then simply what we did is heat up each tube. We just tied off a chain at the top of the tubing here. A strap would work, but a chain was good. And by heating that down below and pulling on that chain, just popped them loose. Both of them here. We put a chain here and then pop that one loose, and then put them right back in on the new one after we got the new one bolted in down at the bottom. And he soldered them in. We pressure checked it, checked for leaks. Everything's perfect. I'm putting it together now, so I'm gonna get this unit swinged back into place and start reattaching everything. We did have to remove the two screws here for the electrical box that sits here, and we had to cut all the zip ties. We had all the zip tied down below to my manifold there. Got to where my AC wires were loose enough slack to pull that through, and here's the AC junction box there, still attached to the frame, and we didn't have to take that off. We didn't have to take off the motherboard, which is this unit right here. That was still all attached, and so all the wires just I think I mentioned before, just cut the zip ties, and everything loosened up. Got that out of the way so we can get this work done. I'm now going to go ahead and bring it back in place. We've already vacuumed it out yesterday after we soldered the new compressor in, checked for leaks, vacuumed it out, put a slight charge in it just to see if everything was good and solid, not leaking. It's good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together the same way I took it apart. Just a lot of screws and some patience, but it's easy enough to do. Get it out of the way, get the work done, put it back in place. Here's the container. That yellow container has got the refrigerant in it, and I'm gonna go ahead and charge it back in using the vapor side only, and just loading in the same charge that we pulled out. So I'll do that myself, but if you had to have an AC guy come over and evacuate the refrigerant, and if they could leave it in the container for you, you could put it back in, or have them come back out and recharge it. But and then having this all out of the way, and it didn't take him but, oh goodness, half hour, 45 minutes max to get all that done. I got the swung back in that position there, just resting in that position, flared out at the bottom, so I can get all the wraps around the compressor wires on, the heating element down below. This one down here, it's a orange heat. I don't know if you can see it. You'll see it. It's a
a heating element at the bottom, and of course the ground for that goes here. So anyway, that way just have yourself some room to get all that stuff put back in place. And then next I'll push the frame back in place and secure it, and secure the heating element. I got it back over here loosely. I'll get that back in place, make sure all the wires are routed the same way as before, and then I'll start zip tying all this stuff up, get all zip tied back into place. Well, it's all finished. It's running. I'm charging it right now on the vapor side. Slow going, but it's working. It's putting out good temps. The system is very quiet. Very happy with the results, and we're all completed. I pray that you are blessed, that you know Him who is the author of life.